So I've been sick and injured for the last few weeks, so I didn't do jack shit. Still have a head cold. It's annoying, but it is what it is. What you gonna do, right? So I saw something in the news I thought was rather interesting, and I thought I'd share a little bit because it's not overwhelmingly interesting, but I did find out a few interesting little tidbits about it. So Tucson, Arizona. Arizona being a democratically led city and a democratically led state, I believe, if I'm not incorrect in my assumption, decided to put on the ballot for the voting for this week. It was on Tuesday. Um, a proposal. So they put Prop A through F, right? And give you the option to weigh your opinion on whether or not they should carry these things forward. And what's supposed to happen is you vote for or against said propositions, and those propositions either get tabled permanently or they get carried forward depending on your vote. Now, to give you some interesting idea behind why I don't think this means very much, there's a couple of proposals that I know of where the whole city voted against it. It was like 80% against. It was pretty heavily against, right? And it was the one I remember is like they were building a football field or something for high school, like the stadium, not at the school, but like an actual stadium for kids to compete at. And everybody voted against it. So they didn't do it, but then they turned around and voted for a bonds that have budgetary planning for a new field. So they disguised it, put in a bond, and built the goddamn thing anyways. They went around the votes, basically, and just masked it as a budget item instead. It was pretty shady, if you ask me. So when I see this, and I'll get to the other point that comes kind of around to this too, that your opinion doesn't seem to matter unless it's an election to put people in or out of office. And that is probably the only time that people's votes really do matter. So a proposal was done in Tucson, Arizona to make it a sanctuary city. People voting yes or in favor were to declare the city code that Tucson is a sanctuary city, and they called it something. They called it Families Free and Together Forever. There it is. Tucson Families Free and Together. That was the proposal bid. That's their colorful language to say these people can just stay free and stay together, and that's the way it needs to be. You're a sanctuary city. You're not going to help the police do their job for people that break the law. That's a great thing. So vote yes. It would, let's see. Declare the city a sanctuary city. Restrict law enforcement officers from actions determining a person's immigration status. Prevent officers from contacting federal law enforcement agencies to determine a person's illegal or their immigration status. Prohibit city employees from inquiring about a person's immigration status, among other policies. So you couldn't even ask as a state employee. The police were barred from assisting federal government. You know, one of the small jobs that they have is defending this country's border. Without the border, we have no country. But what the fuck ever, right? A vote no was a vote against declaring the city code a sanctuary city and restricting the actions of police officers regarding determined immigration status. Well, they voted. And the vote came in to say a 75. We go back to the story. It was 75 or 76% against. So it was voted not in favor of, but against. There was a 30% group that voted for. And, well, they put it on the ballot at least. I mean, it kind of worked out for them, I suppose. They got to see exactly what people thought of these sanctuary cities. If you didn't see what happened to California, I invite you to go visit California. Why don't you go to Disney and see how that works out for you? To give you a small idea, when I was a kid, I went to Disneyland with my parents. I was like 12 at the time, so I was a really little kid. So that would have been 30 years ago that I've been to Disneyland. And we had our tires stolen off our car in the parking lot of the hotel. And we were parked just around the corner from Disneyland. Good neighborhood. Good neighborhood. It was really impressive. I'm surprised the whole car wasn't stolen at that point. We had to spend $400. That's what my parents said. Because they stole the rim, too. You had to buy a new rim. So it wasn't just the tire was stolen. They stole the whole goddamn thing.
So even you have become rotten.
So Tucson, that worked out well for you. I'm sure they did some initial polling to find out if Tucson wanted to be a sanctuary city. The Democrats that run the place were like, yeah, this is a great idea. We just, immigrants are great. If you don't like immigrants, you're a racist. Something like that. Something completely ridiculous, more than likely. Well, this gets to my second point of this video. I would like for anybody, and literally anybody that watches this video, and anybody that you know, if you share this video if you'd like, has anyone actually ever been contacted by a polling agency to ask your opinion regarding X, Y, and Z? At least Gallup I've talked to once. There's an automated system where it asked me some questions, and that was the end of it. And the questions were actually pertaining to journal integrity, something like that. It was a poll that they were doing or data collection on people that do research and researchers and that type of stuff. And since I'm listed as a reviewer for a couple academic journals, they pinged me because that's kind of a niche thing, So it happens.
You were never important. Just a figurehead for our faction.
But at the same time, I have never been contacted, not once, by any of these polling agencies regarding any of the questions that have been asked that we've seen. A new poll says this, a new poll says that. They asked 1,000 people this and 1,000 people that. I doubt it. I think they make that shit up at this point. And it's not just because I haven't been contacted. I have never met a single person that ever has been contacted. I've talked to a lot of people across the United States, in various countries, from various origins. I've been to half the states so far. Not once have I been contacted. Not once. There's something dreadfully wrong with this image. To say a new poll says this and a new poll says that, but no one's ever taken the actual poll? So where the hell are you getting your numbers from? At least with votes, somebody had to physically go to a place to get a number, dial in that number in the little polling booth, and then pick things. There was physical interaction with person to vote. At least those numbers are accurate when it comes to things that happen.
Very soon, something really important will happen.
Why I don't think this prop matters and I think it's a complete waste of time? Well, it comes down to the same thing. If the people that have been elected into office disagree with the voters, they'll do it anyways. I've seen it done numerous times. They don't give a shit about your votes. If you really wanted them to do your bidding, you would not put them in office. Just like the lady that just won her bid into a minor seat because she flipped the president off. That's her qualifications right there. That she was able to finger the motorcade of the president while biking. That's I'd love to know what her policy positions is. So what's your policy on immigration? Orange man bad. What do you think about the local economy and what can you do to help it? Orange man bad. Those are her policies. That's all I know. That's all the media is talking about. Is, that lady that was, she was in that picture and she flipped off the motorcade and it was really famous that one time? Yeah, she's in public office now. Really? Any money that the Democratic Socialists of America got a hold of her and asked her to run so we can have more socialists in office? And I think the last thing I'm going to add to this video is I also saw something else that was quite disturbing, and that was to say that I think it was close to 40-something% of Democrats, assuming the poll is actually accurate. I seriously doubt it, but then again, I was a Democrat and no longer, because the Democrats have lost their goddamn minds. They are saying that they would happily vote in a socialist. I saw this on Facebook, actually. I was like, great, just vote Hitler in. Vote Hitler in at this point. This is a good argument in my opinion. I mean, you're just spitting on Godwin's law, but why not? Because everybody's a fucking Nazi anyways, right? Let's just vote Hitler in. I mean, it just replaces hatred for Jews with a hatred for white people. It'd work, Just he hates white people, all white people. They just need to fucking die. And get him a Goebbels while you're at it. Don Lemon would be a great Goebbels, because he definitely said we need to find a final solution for white young men who are troubled or whatever. It doesn't have anything to do with the last 15 years of demonizing white people to the point where they lash out at society, because that's what's getting blown up at this point in time, is society. They're not targeting specific things unless you go to another country where they're targeting Muslims in particular. Can't imagine why they're doing that when some of their parts of their cities are being overrun to the point where you can't even travel down that way without having issues with the locals, as if they set up their own settlement, and the police are now the border patrol for that little settlement. We've seen it in a few instances. It's kind of disturbing, but whatever. At this point in time, I really hope that that's not the case. You guys really need to look into socialism, and I should probably take the time to iron out the points, because I've seen plenty of videos saying socialism bad, and I've seen a couple of lefties try to describe what socialism is, and they're fucking wrong. So I'll boil it down if I have to, which is what I'm good at anyways. I'll show you the root cause and the root analysis of socialism, and then you can decide for yourself whether or not it's good or not. So, yeah. That's all I had for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for the jump cuts on this one. Like I said, I'm battling a cold, so yeah, gross things happen. It is what it is. All right, see you next time.
There's worms. Do we eat them? Ah, you're ignorant. All the gourmets, they're crazy about worms. Can we eat? Yeah.